If you're in the middle of a PCS right now, or you know one is coming, this series is for you. Because PCS isn't just about boxes and checklists. It's about the waiting, the unknowns, the goodbyes, and starting over in a place that doesn't feel like home yet. I'm moving into my 9th home in the last decade, and what I've learned is this: PCS isn't just a move, it's a life transition. So let's walk through it together. Hello, friend. If you are listening to this, it means I'm in the middle of my own PCS. So this summer, we are doing the PCS Survival Series. And today we're talking about what happens after you arrive. We started this conversation last week talking about needing to build that community from scratch and feeling disconnected. I want to zoom out a little bit today and talk not only about connection, but the whole process of starting over in a new place. The part that I really skipped over in this process is the in-between. So we've covered what it's like up until when you move, and then we've talked about what it's like to start over in a new place. But for my story today, I want to talk about the in-between. What happens between point A and point B in the actual move? Because so many things have happened in my life in the middle of a PCS. I feel like I could do a whole episode just on this because life doesn't pause when you're in the middle of moving. I've had PCSs where my sister got married in the middle of our PCS. I had another one where my cousin got married. I've had multiple PCSs where I attended a family funeral in the middle. In fact, during one PCS, my grandmother's funeral was the day after our household goods got delivered. We were still living on base in a TLF. I flew out early the next morning. I missed the funeral service. I made it in time for the burial. And then when I flew back, I drove to a house that I had never actually spent the night in yet. I had a move where I got back to town and I needed Wi-Fi for a class I was taking, but guess what? Had not been set up at our house yet. Yep. No Wi-Fi, so there I was trying to find a quiet place I could spend the day in class with Wi-Fi. The good news with that experience is that the place I ended up finding became my favorite coffee shop that year. This past summer, I registered for a conference to attend over the summer before I ever knew we were moving. We arrived at our new duty station, received our household goods, and once again, I flew out the next morning for the conference. I had never been less prepared for anything in my life. I could not find my business cards. I had nothing printed. I was just happy to make it to the conference. And then came the question, where are you from? And I had no idea how to answer that question because on the one hand, I wasn't from where I had been living, but on the other hand, I had only spent one night in our new house in a new state. Was I from there? To make matters more fun, the location printed on my name badge ended up being the location we had lived in 2 years prior. I was like, this is the most confusing question to answer. It shouldn't be a confusing question to answer, but it definitely was. So I do want to mention that things happen between point A and point B. But let's talk about what happens after you arrive, after your household goods are delivered. First things first, you have a house to put together, and that takes some time and energy in thinking through, what do I do with all these boxes? How do I unpack? And how do we begin to rebuild our life in a new location? Physically, you are there in a new place, but emotionally, internally, it doesn't feel like home yet. So you may have questions like, how long is this supposed to take? Why does everything feel harder right now? Those are completely normal questions. And also, here's the thing that I like to tell everyone. It honestly takes about 6 months to feel settled in a new place. Every time I've tried to rush that timeline, it hasn't worked. Because settling isn't something that happens in a weekend or even a few weeks. It takes time. It takes time to unpack your house and make it functional for the way that you're going to live in that new place. It takes time to find the places that you're going to go to. What's the favorite coffee shop or the favorite restaurant or the favorite grocery store? All the places that make it feel comfortable, familiar. It takes time to find those places. It takes time to find your people. As we talked about last week, it takes time to get to know people, to figure out, hey, is this a relationship that we're both going to pour into and that they can be someone I call when I need something and that I'm going to be available if they need something? It takes time to find your people. And I think more than anything, it takes time to find your routines. For every place that we've lived, it's taken us time to figure out, okay, what does our schedule look like here? What needs to happen at what point in time to make this fully functional? And we keep tweaking, we keep iterating until we find a system that works for us. And then you move to a new place and with new schedules and new routines, and it takes time to figure out, okay, what does that look like in this house? In our last house, we had a great drop zone by the garage where we could store shoes, we could store socks so that there weren't socks all over the house. That's where all the backpacks went when the kids got home from school. Then we move. We don't have that kind of drop zone in our current house. And so our systems and routines have to shift. And we're still figuring that out. Almost 9 months in, I'm still finding socks everywhere. And I'm like, I miss having the little basket. Hey, put your dirty socks in here when you take your shoes off. So every place that you live, you've got to find those new systems and routines, and that takes time. So let me share what has helped me in the process. Number one, it's just to lower the pressure to feel settled. As much as I want to condense the time it takes to feel this way, it just takes time. And the more that I lower the pressure to have everything finished and put together and to feel settled, the easier it is. And the more that I can just accept, this is a process. I know eventually I'm going to get to that place where I feel settled again. I'm not there yet, and I just have to be okay with that. The second thing that has helped me is to make a plan to get settled in our home. I like to get boxes out of my house as quickly as possible. That is not always possible or feasible, but one of my goals is to try to unpack one room per day. And the more that I can get to my new place and put things away, the quicker I feel settled in that location. And for me, the biggest thing that makes it feel like home is when I get to the point where I can hang something on a wall. When I can put the curtains up, when I can put the picture on the wall, then it starts to feel like a home again. Sometimes I'm able to get this all done quickly. Some moves, it takes a lot longer, and then I feel unsettled for longer. But the best thing I can tell you is to make a plan for how you want to go about getting settled into your home. And I give myself a longer timeline to work with sometimes. For this house, we were struggling with figuring out the storage, and I really wanted to be able to park our cars in the garage by the time the weather cooled off. And so I set a goal that I could park the cars in the garage by the end of October. So we moved in June, And my goal is to be able to get cars in the garage by the end of October. And we got there. It took some effort, but we got there. You may need a shorter amount of time. You may need a lot longer amount of time. But the more that you can set those goals and work towards them, you have something that you are working towards rather than getting overwhelmed looking at the whole task of getting settled in your new house. Now, I know this is not everybody's cup of tea. We had this conversation during our move this last summer when I had to leave town immediately after our household goods got delivered. And my husband, who usually has to jump straight back into work, was like, I'll be around. I'll start unpacking and organizing. And he quickly realized that this is not his expertise at all. He said, I could never figure out how to put together a kitchen like you can. I have lots of experience at this point, but I also know that this skill comes more naturally for some people than it does for others. And also, the more that you do it, the more that you learn, hey, this works really well, this doesn't work as well. So it's a combination of some people are just naturally more skilled at organizing and figuring out where things go. And also, the more that you do it, the better you get at it. But the best thing to do is to make a plan of how you're going to attack the big project so it doesn't feel overwhelming. Number one, you've lowered the pressure on yourself to feel settled right away. Number two, you've made a plan for how you want to start getting settled in your home. Number three, you're going to find a way to meet some people. We talked about this a lot in last week's episode, but the more that you make a plan to put yourself out there, to find some way to connect with other people, the more that you're going to feel settled in the new place. Because at the end of the day, we are meant for community and connection. We're not meant to do life alone. We need each other. We are better together. So the more that we understand that community and connection are really important to our mental and physical well-being and our ability to truly have a life we love, the more that we can begin to prioritize that as part of getting settled in a new location. The fourth thing that has helped me a ton is by making a bucket list of things to do in my new area. It's giving me something to look forward to, even if it's not a place that I'm super excited about going. As long as I have something that I can look forward to doing in that new place, that's helped me a lot. It helps my kids a lot because it's giving them something to look forward to. And some places, it's easy to find a ton of things to do. And in some places, you got to get a little more creative. But in every place that we've lived, there have been fun things to see and do and experience. So the more that you can start making your list of things you want to do in that new location, the more it's going to help you. And then last but not least, begin to create those routines that support you in the new place. It takes time to get unpacked. It takes time to find your systems and routines. But the more that you begin to intentionally think through what routines are going to support our family in this house, the more quickly you will begin to feel settled and more in control of the way that your days go. Your job when you arrive is not to rebuild your life overnight. It's to start again. And when I say that, it can feel really daunting. So this is the other piece of the process that I've had to learn. And I think it is really important, especially if you, like me, move really often, because it can get really tiring. It can get exhausting to start over in a new place again and again. And the more that you do it, the more that you start to feel disconnected from the place, because it can get to the point where you're like, this is a lot of work. I don't know if I really want to put in the effort to get established, to put deep roots down when I know that I'm going to have to start over again. But the key is what part of this process we're focusing on. If we're focusing on the idea that we have to start over from scratch, that feels a lot more overwhelming than if I shift the way that I'm thinking about this. Yes, you are starting over. Yes, there is a lot of effort and time and energy that goes into starting over, but you're not starting over from scratch. You have things that you have found that worked in the last location. You have found things that you love to do in the previous location, hopefully. You have found a little bit of what makes you come alive. If you've been listening to the podcast for any length of time, you know that I am all about figuring out how to tap into what brings you joy, what makes you come alive, and how you can do more of that right where you are today. So if you have been doing that inner work, if you have been getting to know yourself a little bit deeper, those are all things that you are taking with you when you move. So yes, you are starting over, but no, you are not starting over from scratch. So when I think back to all of the moves, here are some things I wish someone had told me about starting over. First of all, it takes longer than you think to feel settled, and that is completely normal. As much as we want to shortcut the process, it just takes time. Number 2, feeling out of place is part of the process. It's okay to feel lonely. It's okay to feel grief over leaving your last duty station. And it's okay to feel sad that you do not yet feel settled. Number 3, you don't have to figure everything out right away. It takes time. You can build slowly. Don't put pressure on yourself to make it all happen immediately. And number 4, even though you are starting over, you're not starting over from scratch. You have the ability to thrive wherever you go, even in the midst of hardship. When you move, you are taking with you your knowledge of what has worked for you in the past, your knowledge of what brings you joy. You are taking with you your skills and abilities. The next place may look different. It may not be as easy as the place you left. I know that it brings me joy to go sit by the ocean and stare into the water. That was easy when I lived in Hawaii. That was not as easy when I moved to the dead center of the continental United States. It looked different. It took more time to figure out what I could do for myself. But I still found places that I loved, and that brought me joy. I still found fun things to do, like going strawberry picking in the spring, going apple picking in the fall. I still found my go-to stores. I still found a favorite coffee shop. It wasn't as easy. It took more time, but all of those things were possible because I wasn't starting over from scratch. So if I could give you one thing to do that will help you in this process, if you are in this place of living somewhere brand new, not knowing anyone, not knowing your places, your people, your things, your routines, try this. Choose one place, one thing you love and can do in your new location. And then make a plan to go do that thing. Find a hike and go hike it. Find a nail salon to try. Find a coffee shop and go grab a cup of coffee. Find a gym, a library, whatever. Find something that you know brings you joy and then find a way to do it in the very near time frame. Because the more that you start doing things that you already know you love, the more quickly that place will start to feel like home, and you will start to feel settled in your new location. And I say this not as somebody who did this and is done, but as someone who is currently walking through this and probably listening to this episode to remind me to go do these very same things. Sometimes these things can feel hard in the beginning. But remember, it's not really the beginning. You're just in the messy middle of things becoming familiar again. And next week, we're going to wrap up the series by talking about what it looks like not to just live somewhere, but to actually build a life you love regardless of where you live. It's a great way, I think, to wrap up this entire series. But until then, may you live filled, fueled, and full of joy. Hey, Amazing Milspouse, before you go, I want you to know that I love hearing from you. The More Than a Milspouse community exists to help you thrive as a military spouse. Figure out what lights your heart on fire and empower you to live with purpose and impact. You can have an incredible impact simply by heading over to iTunes to subscribe and leave a review. But your impact doesn't stop there. You can empower those around you simply by sharing an episode with a friend or neighbor, someone who needs a little encouragement in this military life. And if this episode was meaningful to you, spread the love by taking a screenshot of this episode and tagging me on Instagram so we can continue to reach more people, change more lives, and shift the way that military spouses look at life. Because we are better together, and together we can change the world. Let's do it.